So now everyone, we're down to like the last two presentations of the day. And I just wanted to mention that they are like really, really, really good ones as well. We've had just a stellar lineup this year as well, even if we're not able to meet in person, to be there, together to share stories at coffee or, generally while hanging out around the event. So now it is time for one of those stories that will most likely blow your mind. The last time that I saw our next guest speak on the DefCamp stage in 2019, I remember just, being like, it was like sitting on, kind of a movie theater, watching a James Bond movie. It was just absolutely fantastic. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Chris Kubeka, who is a distinguished chair at the Middle East Institute's cyber program and CEO of INFOSEC. She does some incredible research. She is so incredibly transparent and candid, and she's such a great supporter of the cybersecurity community. She really tells things like it is, and she helps bring to light some issues that are just, they almost sound insane, but they're very real. They're very impactful, and her work is just astounding. So, Chris, we're just so happy to have you again at DefCamp.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello, Romania. Happy Turkey Day if you are in America. I am having leftover fried rice, but that's okay. And it's a pleasure to see you all. And I'm really thrilled to be giving this talk at DefCamp because, as I'll explain in the presentation, the more this issue and this type of issue goes public, the safer security researchers like us actually are. So if you don't know me in person, I'm a bit snarky as well. I don't know what another good translation is for that, but I don't like bullies. So this talk came out of that. Revenge is best served over IOT. And as it was explained, I'm with the Middle East Institute and also head my own company. I also have a U.S. military background, and I deal a lot in critical infrastructure security. We all love our modern world with our electricity and running water and things like that, but it's all digitized. And where there's digital, there are good hackers like us, bad hackers like the Iranians. So I'll give you a little intro. Most of you, if not all of you, have probably heard of something called Stuxnet. The Iranian government is quite interesting because there's a lot of power plays that are going on in the Middle East and Northern Africa because of Iran, whether it be various different types of funding terrorist organizations to hacking. And right now they are under a lot of pressure to try to get a nuclear agreement signed again, which was unsigned by the previous government president of the United States. And one of the things that they've been trying to do for a long time is to disrupt things that are going on in the Middle East. So recently, many of the Middle Eastern and Northern African governments actually signed something called the Abraham Peace Accord. And with the Middle East about a year ago at our institute, we actually drafted the world's first cyber peace accord called the Abraham Cyber Peace Accord. And this is because of a lot of the Iranian actions and a lot of the cyber attacks that have come out of there. So I'll take you on a little journey. Back in 2016, I got a LinkedIn request. Surprisingly, it was not someone trying to sell me something or being part of a multi-level marketing scheme, or I've even gotten offered because I have a Chinese CV, how to distribute fentanyl from China, but it wasn't that. It was just a training gig. It was from person who was looking to train their team to do hands-on GPEN-like things, where hands-on offensive security, but instead of IT systems, concentrate on OT systems or the types of systems, control systems that run our critical infrastructure. And they're quite a bit different than your regular IT system in many, many ways. So I started looking at the offer. It was a lot of money. I can't see your hands, but how many of you would just accept an offer for €100,000 a month? And that was the offer. They had found out that I had spoken at a previous nuclear cybersecurity event in the United Kingdom. And at the time, I was lecturing for part of GCHQ for an organization called Centers for the Protection of National Infrastructure. So I had been to a lot of England and UK-wide nuclear facilities to discuss cybersecurity on control systems with the actual operating engineers. And I, as was said earlier, I don't really try to hide a lot of what I do because I like to be transparent. So this information was easily found. And they even offered me to take me on a tour around Iran and have pictures with their generals, shaking their hands and so forth. Now, because of my military background, I knew that this was extremely dodgy, not particularly legal, and also it would have been part of propaganda. And I didn't really want any part of it, but I was very curious how deep they were going to take this and if I could collect any names for various authorities. So as was described in the previous presentation, there are a lot of elaborate campaigns that are set up between social media, fake websites, etc. Well, in this case, a friend of mine, I asked him to take a look at some of the things because the Wall Street Journal was looking into this particular story. And he found that the Iranian government had set up a series of what's called sock puppets on various social media, especially LinkedIn. They had set up various fake websites, fake personas, everything to try to get me to think that they were legitimate. I did not think they were legitimate. And because of it, I'm like, well, you know, I'm collecting these names. All this stuff is going on. This doesn't seem very legal. Trying to bribe me, trying to get me to tell information about a former company I worked for, which was Saudi Aramco, and knowing the background between Saudi and Iran, where when I worked for Saudi Aramco, I saw firsthand the amount of cyber attacks launched by Iran. I made my list and I started emailing, and I had gotten contact information from an FBI agent who did a presentation at Security B-Sides years ago. And I was sending emails like, here's our conversations, here's our WhatsApp conversations, this doesn't seem right. Is there anything else I can collect and do? And I had gotten no response. Well, it turns out he had no longer worked for the FBI and they just left the mailbox open. So then I tried the Department of Treasury, which is the organization in the US which does a lot of public sanctioning of what you can do and what you can't do with certain countries or people. And I did not get a response from them either. So then I tried the CIA tip line, because they have a tip line, and I left 4 messages. It turns out the recording was, hello, we are the CIA. This is the Office of Public Relations. And I'm a little confused, thinking, well, why would you have the Office of Public Relations linked to your tip line, which happens to be on your website? The recording was very strange. It gave you a reference number so that whenever you called back and I guess left a message, you could use the reference number. And I tried and tried and tried with this particular reference number and did not get a response. Now, it was at this point I'm thinking, well, you know, I mean, it can't be that big of a deal because no one is responding to me. So all right, I'll just keep playing a game and seeing how deep they particularly take this. And it started in 2016, and in 2019, I was at a friend's retirement ceremony in January over at West Point because he retired as a military officer and a professor there. And we're having drinks. The conversation is free flowing. We're all having a good time. And I look at my phone and there's a WhatsApp message. I'm like, huh. And I start laughing. And this guy next to me, he's like, oh, what are you laughing at? Thinking maybe I have a funny cat meme or something like that. And I'm like, oh, well, not quite. It's a message from the Iranian government, and they want to give me a gift. He was no longer laughing. In the meantime, during all of this, they sent a lot of messages over WhatsApp. And they had offered a couple of weeks earlier, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, hey, I'm doing fine. They're like, I'm telling them, I'm like, listen, there are these sanctions. I don't think I can do business with you because, quite frankly, I don't want to go to a U.S. jail or an Iranian jail, but the U.S. ones. Whew. And he says in WhatsApp very openly, hey, there are a lot of EU companies doing business with us, just, of course, not directly. So trying to get me to break sanctions, which would have put me in jail, to do business with them. So the message that he sends me, I assume it's a he, I'm not sure, was like, hey, Chris, how you doing? Like, doing fine. And he's like, so can I get your home address? Because we'd like to send you a gift. And that's what got me laughing so hard at this retirement ceremony, because if you're not friends with a government, I don't care which government, you don't really expect a gift, but especially from the Iranian government, due to my background, I wasn't sure if this would be a gift of, something mundane or a gift where the bomb disposal unit would have to be called out. Because unfortunately, there have been numerous terrorist attacks and assassinations directly attributed to the Iranian government and Iranian embassies throughout Europe, with a conviction earlier this year of an Iranian diplomat who claimed diplomatic immunity, but yet gave bomb-making material to a couple, I believe it was in Vienna, because the Iranian government decided there was going to be a big rally of a particular Iranian government in exile, a group of people who were like, hey, we don't like the current Iranian government. This needs to change. And the plan was to kill as many people as possible at that rally in Europe. So I spoke to the FBI finally through this guy who was standing next to me at this retirement party, just so happened to work for the FBI and deal with cyber. So they got a team together, started an investigation, and said, listen, we fear for your safety. The Netherlands, where you usually live, they have attributed 2 assassinations from the Iranian government against people in the Netherlands, and don't have any more contact with them. And try to be safe, and we'll alert you if we hear any sort of chatter against you and so forth. So last year, before COVID, after things had been kind of quiet and I thought that things were a bit over, I'm like, well, I think other security researchers should know that this particular government or other governments could try to give us enormous amounts of money. Because trust me, I could have used $100,000 a month. I could have paid off my mortgage with 1 month. And, it can be very enticing, but if you don't know what is really going on with geopolitics and so forth, it can be easy to get wrapped up. There are certain things that governments will do to try to get you to be one of their agents. some of them, obviously trying to be very nice because it's lasted for years, offering you gifts, which could be illegal to take. For me, it's illegal to take a gift from the Iranian government, and they can hook you in once you do even the slightest illegal thing that you might not even know about. So I went public, and Ars Technica published a story with some of the messages and researched it and was like, wow, this is pretty interesting, And shortly after going public and the article coming out, I was alerted by one of my friends at a CERT organization in Europe that they had found my home address, some of my personal information, and pictures of my house on various extremist websites listing me as an enemy of Iran, and trying to say that I had a fatwa against me, meaning, hey, I must be an outlaw, anybody can kill me. So that was a bit interesting last year. And so it kind of pissed me off because I don't like bullies. And so instead, what I did was I had read about a new Iranian law at the time, which said that any mixed gender place, such as a restaurant or anything like that, entertainment food wise, had to have a camera looking at the patrons of the restaurant, and that camera had to be watched by the religious portion of their police. So I don't know about you, but I was thinking, wait a second. So you're telling me that a country that can only buy cameras from China, basically, is going to set up thousands of these things, going back to police to be viewable. And I started to question, well, something tells me they won't have very much of any security. Well, it turns out they had no security. So I found over 10,000 of their cameras, and they use one particular manufacturer for the majority, called Hikvision. If you're curious, you can actually look up various exploits for Hikvision, because they're still around. And for ease of use for the police, they're not going to want everyone to have different credentials for these cameras. It's just too much overhead. So found the cameras. I could even adjust the resolution on the cameras. I could turn on audio if the cameras actually were set up for audio. And so I, took my own little revenge and gave that information to the U.S. government for various purposes that they could do with it, such as facial recognition, finding people on a terrorist list, etc. So I turned the Iranian surveillance state against itself. And Iran is uniquely vulnerable because they have a ton of systems that are out there and exposed to the internet. There's a disconnect between their offensive security side, which is fairly good at times, and actually taking cybersecurity seriously. And this graph will be important for the last part of what I've been doing lately. So then I started getting some messages, and these messages started this year after another story came out. And I happen to know friends, and this is a great thing about attending conferences like this, either in person or online. Try to make friends because you never know who the other person is on the other end of the computer. One of my friends used to be an investigator for an intelligence agency. Another friend that I went to worked for cyber, but for the terrorism police in a EU country. And they gave me a lot of very good advice and looked into the matter. And because they were credible threats, the FBI got involved again, as well as the Secret Service for, I hope, the first and only time ever. I was included in a White House intelligence report this year that was most likely seen by President Biden. So this new story came out that was a bit more in depth. And this happened in late January, early February. And it was a story on a podcast I did for the Middle East Institute, which went through the story of them trying to recruit me and also the fact that I hacked all their stuff and turned their surveillance against them. And the story ended with, if you're going to, that's the F word, with me, I'm going to hack your stuff. Revenge is best served over IOT. I did say in the beginning of this, I'm a bit snarky, and I also don't like bullies. So this new series of messages started coming in. They actually referenced the news article directly, and they were deemed credible enough that between February and September, I couldn't go home. The police came around. They talked to all my neighbors. None of my neighbors knew what I did for a living. And suddenly they're like, what do you do for a living? And one of my neighbors, brand new baby, here the police are going, yeah, we've got this credible threat against your neighbor because of, the Iranian government might want to kill her, but, anything that you see suspect or just out of order, don't call the non-emergency line, call the emergency line. And of course, they're freaking out. So it's a great way to know your neighbors. I'll tell you that. So I recently got home, and the amazing thing about this is when I say the Iranian offensive is kind of depending on the situation. So the person sending me the messages, I had some friends check out their phone number, and it turns out that this person had registered a domain. And when I looked up the IP address of the domain, the IP address was hosting a bunch of propaganda, fake news out of Iran. And so basically, this person exposed an entire disinformation operation. And of course, I gave that information to the FBI. So present day, a couple of weeks ago, I tweeted a post. I'll be serious. I thought it was kind of funny, right? Safe word must be at least 8 characters long and contain one special character. Unfortunately, this was right before I was doing this talk in Vienna. And so I got another very interesting series of threats. This is one of them. And it's a little off-putting when you're told that someone isn't afraid of martyrdom. So my next 2 destinations after receiving this and speaking with the Dutch police, I had an armed escort from NATO to and from the airport, etc. Vienna police were made aware, had to do all sorts of funny, funky things to protect my privacy, to make sure that hopefully nobody was following me or wanted to kill me. And as a bit of an update, so after I do my talk in Vienna, I'm in the bathroom because I have a nosebleed, and I'm in the bathroom stall trying to, clean myself up because sometimes I get them. And I get this call, and it's from my neighbor, the same neighbor with a almost brand new baby, a lovely family. The neighbor's lovely. And she's like, "Hi, Chris. The police are here." So they had some more information and concerns. I just happen to be in Vienna, not in the Netherlands, where I usually live. And also, as I was trying to get to Vienna, I get a message from a security researcher. And it turns out that the Iranian government, to offset some of the things that are going on in Iran, they decided to start doxing security researchers on Iranian state news television. So that particular researcher was at first quite, like, what the heck is going on? Police are involved, terrorism police are involved, etc. Because these are some of the tactics that the Iranian government is using. So if you are a security researcher who handles incidents or malware or whatever, and you get known for handling anything that comes from, or most likely comes from, the Iranian government, we now have a new vector of attack against us. The Iranian government is now making it quite personal and doxing us on Iranian state television. Your home address, your phone number, pictures, potentially family members, etc. So this is an ongoing thing. I don't have my location disclosed at the moment under police advice, and I am trying to keep moving because I've gotten a few more direct threats than this, and we'll see the outcome. But hopefully, I will see all of you post-COVID and be able to give updates. So some things to consider. Because technology is now intertwined with geopolitics, we have to expect geopolitics to do geopolitics. So there's a rise of all sorts of cyber espionage going on, whether it be by a nation state or a competing company. These things are occurring more and more. I have been involved in a few, you could say, cyber warfare events in the Middle East, and they're only getting bigger, trying to hit all sorts of critical infrastructure, affecting human lives, etc. Earlier this year, I was moderating a panel with someone from Saudi Aramco, and they divulged during the panel that they had stopped an attack from the Iranians against their critical infrastructure, and the intent of the attack was to kill thousands of civilians. So these things are becoming more and more a real everyday thing instead of something that we thought might happen in a trashy airport novel. When you try to contact the police, it's not always easy. I remember back in February when I started getting the first messages of this year, I wasn't sure who to contact because I was in the Netherlands. And so I called the police non-emergency number. And I'm trying to tell this guy, I'm like, yeah, so, this is a long-standing thing, but, these are more serious threats. And he starts laughing like I'm a crazy person because I've just told him that the Iranian government is sending me death threats. So I started laughing myself because if you get a call like that, you're going to think that the person is insane. I might not have much sanity left, but I think maybe, hopefully, I might still be sane. So because of that, the Dutch police and other police have been working quite a bit on this with me and about other individuals who may be affected. And lastly, if it's legal and ethical, I don't know. I don't like bullies, so I like to get rid of bullies. Ethically hack. And I've lately been getting deeper into this because, again, I like to take revenge. So I have been working on various Iranian targets. And having a lot of fun. So we'll see how this progresses and what else I can hack on the Iranian government for trying to bully me and censor me. So if you'd like to know more, a quick shout out to everyone at DefCamp. You all are wonderful. I love this conference. I wish I could be there in person. And if you need to get in touch with me, my profile is on mei.edu, and there's a way to contact me through my communications department because they had to remove my email from the website because that particular website was a risk. So thank you very much. I hope that there are some questions. I do enjoy questions, and I hope to see you all next year.
Thank you, Chris. Just a second, I ran out of batteries. My headphones were as floored by your presentation as I am. I'm just in complete, not disbelief, because we know and trust that everything that you tell us is just not only real, but also like scary real. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing all of this work and for setting this example of courage and ethics. I think that we can all see how, not just how big of a toll something like this can take, but how much courage and resilience and persistence it takes to be able to live through this. And this is not your first time. I know that we talked about the similar situation, and you talked about a similar situation in 2019. We're just in awe of your courage and example. I think that these are so powerful for everyone. I mean, it's all fun and not fun and games, but it can appear that cybersecurity is all fun and games, but the stakes are very real. The impact is very real, both on our personal selves kind of, and then again on our societies as a whole. And I see that people are thanking you in the chat as well for your presentations. I do have to say that it is difficult to find questions to ask after a presentation like this. I mean, we all feel kind of that we need to sit for a moment and take a breather. But speaking of, something that I asked Don as well, how have you managed? Thank you for mentioning the fact about making friends, about having each other's back, about having someone to reach out to whenever something bad happens, whether it's smaller or huge. And I wanted to ask, how do you take care of yourself and your mental health throughout an experience like this? It seems just absolutely overwhelming.
Well, I'm going to take my first vacation in 11 years starting on Sunday. That's
We're
one
celebrating
way.
with you.
And it's something I should have done obviously before, because I'm kind of tired of the situation. But it can be difficult. And that, again, is where friends can come into play, because talking about things helps. Having a person or people that will listen, and vice versa, when people have difficult choices to make or difficult situations. And luckily, with our wonderful internet, we can talk to our friends whenever and wherever they are. But friends, a good friend is better than probably any therapist in certain situations.
That is so absolutely true. And I'm sure that I speak for all of us when I say that we wish you nothing but the best. And we hope that you have a chance to take care of yourself, and that, there's let's say, a long-term solution to this. And thank you for your bravery, and thank you for your contribution to the community. You're one of the most generous people that I know, and so many others share and echo my sentiment, because you've helped them and helped them, help lift them, help expand their voice, and help them trust themselves that they can make a meaningful contribution to not just cybersecurity, but making the world a better place, because that's kind of one of the main things in the hacker, like the main principle in the hacker ethos. So thank you so much, Chris, for being here with us, and we're rooting for you and your safety, and we'll hopefully celebrate kind of a good ending to the story that is on the side of truth and what is right.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.